I am coming here from Minnesota on a very rainy day in late May. Hopefully, we get summer soon. But Warcry does know it's summer, at least, and that part's pretty exciting. We've got two different tournaments that happened last weekend, as well as a pretty sweet little model review. So let's get right into it. I'm pretty excited about new additions to the game that are coming up, although we have no idea when. But for now, we've got this sweet Nurgle cultist. I actually wasn't that into the Horns of Hashut. I don't dislike them really, but also I don't like them. This guy I actually do love, and I saw some other people sort of not loving him, which I don't get personally because let's sort of break it down right away, right? Rotmeyer Creed is the name of the faction. Carrion Catcher is the name of this fighter. We've got a few tidbits too. So the article that came out on Warhammer Community had a lot of kind of nothing speak in it, which is okay, right? But the newsletter, that kind of the email that announced this guy that said, go check out Warcom for more about this information. It said two really important things. One was it explicitly called him a Nurgle follower, which when I first saw the article, I was really speculating, like, is this kind of a Cruel Boys aligned human, or is this a Cities of Sigmar but in Gur? But it looks like these are going to be Nurgle followers, which I'm really excited about. I'll expand on that in a minute. And then it also named this sort of Roarcry is the better name for it that I've heard. This sort of Roarcry bit as a expansion to the game, not necessarily a new addition. So we could see something more along the lines of what Ash Wastes did for Necromunda than what the newest Kill Team did for Kill Team 18, right? And I think that's really positive. I think a lot of people were hoping for that, and so I'm really happy to see that. The Nurgle thing I'm really happy about because Nurgle's always been a little gross to me. I've liked the play style of Nurgle always, the kind of attrition based, slow and steady wins the race. Unfortunately, they're not very good in Warcry, although Nurgle Demons, since the TOC, have really gotten a shot in the arm. They're really solid now. But, the Mortals are still struggling, of course. The important thing is, though, this is a totally different Nurgle aesthetic than what you get in the main line. And I think that Warcry and Kill Team 2 are just excellent places to experiment with this, and I wish they would do it more, and I'm excited for what this could mean, right? I would love to see warbands for each of the Chaos Gods in Warcry. I think that would be so great. We know from the Slaves to Darkness leaks that the Rotmeyer Creed is not going to be in the Slaves to Darkness book, right? So there's a very good chance that they're Nurgle marked and that they sort of find their way into Nurgle forces in Age of Sigmar too. They've kind of really pulled back on the grossness here, although you can see there's a few details here on the foot, on the arm, where the the studio could have colored these in sort of with some purple tones, some sort of bruising they could have done. So they could have kind of put some yellow highlights on there to make them kind of pussy sort of things, and they chose not to, which I think is really interesting. So it makes it so that it doesn't look bad the way they've done it, right? But if you want to, you can definitely paint this character very Nurgly, or you can just kind of go straight down the line and just say this is a swamp Nurgle guy, and it's just a totally different aesthetic. This is one of the first kind of fit, or Nurgle stuff a lot of the time is very strong fit, like an offensive lineman in American football, or, like the biggest guy on the rugby field kind of fit. But this is the first kind of soccer or European football or world football, sort of fit type of character that we've seen come out of Nurgle. And I think that's really exciting. I love that it's a different aesthetic. I love all kinds of naturey warbands too, right? So like Sylvaneth is one of my favorite warbands, all of that stuff. I think that was one of the things that really drew me to AOS, was seeing things like Idoneth Deepkin, and this kind of feels like a chaos answer to that sort of stuff. So I'm excited about that. They also, in the Warcom article, the one sort of tidbit that they did drop that I thought was really useful was that the Gnarlwood is a inhospitable forest full of carnivorous critters and flesh-eating flora. So we could see some really cool sort of dangerous terrain kind of stuff in the new box. That would be really fun. Some sort of person eating plant would be really fun. Some sort of plant that deals damage to you if you come within a couple inches, something like that. A lot of really sweet sort of possibilities there. Also, carnivorous critters could be sort of more monsters. I've heard, and I've personally kind of speculated that this sort of move to the realm of beasts will try to make the monsters like the Mind Stealer Spheranx or the Ogroid Myrmidon or this new Centaur maybe a little bit more relevant in your Warcry games. And my hope is that we see some destruction-themed Gur monsters, some order-themed Gur monsters, hopefully a death-themed Gur monster, right? I think that would be really cool and a great addition to each of those Grand Alliance books. Going kind of totally shifting gears now. We had 2 different tournaments last weekend. I love that sort of the event scene for this game is starting to get off the ground. I'm really excited about that. The first one is in the Philippines. It's at a place called Neutral Grounds. This was sort of the Tarantulos coming out party. Tarantulos, obviously really hard to get a hold of in previous times, now has just been released. I think both of these players actually put theirs together through trading bits of Red Harvest boxes, but it's going to be much easier to put this warband together going forward, which is really nice. And you can see there were a combined 5-1 in this tournament, only losing to each other, actually, so 4-0 in non-mirror games, which is pretty impressive. Very impressive, actually. Now, I've got the winning Tarantulos list here. It was a Broodmaster, a Contorted Epitome, 2 Doomweavers with nets, and 10 spiders. That's pretty terrifying. This person got their list actually from my Red Harvest guide to the Tarantulos Brood, where there I kind of theorized that the best version of Tarantulos with either with a Contorted Epitome or with an Enlightened Aviarch on disc. I actually leaned towards the Aviarch. This player actually tested it both ways and found that the Contorted Epitome was better, and they did that before going to their tournament, which, awesome dedication. And this list, until someone proves to me otherwise, I think this list is probably the most powerful list in Warcry. It's got a netter in every deployment zone, right, which is becoming more important with the Tome of Champions. These Doomweavers have a really good net ability. The Contorted Epitome obviously has the best net ability in the game. And then they have spiders, which are a 35-point unit with a 55-point body. Was really hoping that the TOC would include sort of an FAQ for Red Harvest stuff. It did not. That probably still won't matter for most most tournaments. I don't think very many people have this warband built, but for people who do, getting a lot of spiders onto the table is still really terrifying. So basically, I mean, it's the strongest elite unit in the game, in the Contorted Epitome, and it's the strongest chaff unit in the game, which is the spiders. If this becomes a problem in the meta moving forward, maybe it's something to worry about, but I do think that this list is so hard to put together still that you're not likely to see it in your tournaments. But if you do, beware. And if we see it in future tournaments going forward, not just in the Philippines, but like if it pops up in 3 or 4 different countries, and it looks like there's maybe a half a dozen or a dozen players who are committed to bringing this list to every tournament in their local area, well then it becomes something to really start to think about. So lot to test there, especially if you actually like the look of the spiders. I would definitely say you already got Red Harvest. I would definitely go get 1 box of the Tarantulos that just came out. And even though the 2-box Tarantulos won't be as deadly as this list is, it's still going to be extremely deadly and tough to deal with for any opponent. We also had a 12-person tournament in Poland. The Rawclaw League in Poland, they get their tournaments in. I'm always impressed with how often they get events firing with a solid number of people. This is the standings that we saw. We've got the winning list for that tournament too, actually. So it's a Butcher, a Thunderfist, an Icefall Yeti, all of the Underworld's Noblars, and then 3 regular Noblars. So Thunderfists obviously continue to be incredible chaff clearers. This person took the Butcher partly because it fits with the points of the other things that are in the list, partly because they just wanted a little bit more hitting power in melee than the Thunderfist had, which is interesting. You've also got, of course, Icefall Yetis are amazing. I think all of the mid-costed Ogre stuff, they're not mid-range so much because they're all between 170 and 200, but kind of the 3 faster units in Ogres, I actually think it's kind of necessary to bring one of the 3. This person brought the Yeti, and the Yeti's really good. It's got that bonus move on a double, which is always amazing. Makes up for, yeah, any deficiencies that you've got elsewhere in the warband as far as movement. But you've also got that projection, right? Because the Butcher has a, the spell ability, so it can shoot, and then the Thunderfist obviously is one of the best shooters in the game. Some of the other lists in this tournament, you saw a lot of kind of underworlds and kind of other experimentation going on with tourney lists. This meta game, the Polish meta game, really interesting, full of a lot of people who know a lot about the game and have played a lot of the most broken stuff already. And so you see a lot of people playing like one really broken thing and then a few new things to kind of test out how they work. And I think that's really cool. And, clearly the Underworld's Noblars work pretty well. They looked pretty incredible coming right out of the box, and if you have an opportunity to get Hrothgorn's Man-Trappers, I would definitely say you should. That's not all for tournaments though, which is pretty exciting. We've got a few different tournaments coming up this summer beyond just LGS tournaments that I haven't heard of yet. Those ones it'll be years before we create a system to kind of centralize and plan for those. So I'll probably only hear about them after they happen, and even then I probably won't hear about most of them. But we have Origins, which is a gaming convention in Columbus, Ohio. There's going to be a Warcry tournament there. As far as I know, I think that's the only Games Workshop game tournament happening there. The same is true of Gen Con. Gen Con is a massive massive convention, bigger than any of the just wargaming ones, just absolutely huge. And we've got a Warcry tournament there, so that's in Indianapolis on August 6th. That's going to be huge. Just Gen Con being big, we might get people kind of randomly coming in from the convention. I've talked with Generally Bad Gamers, which is a YouTube channel that you should check out. He made a bunch of videos that were really great right after the Tome of Champions dropped. And from, what I've talked with him, it's not going to be a regular thing, but he'll probably return to making more videos in the future too. So definitely someone to keep tabs on for future content. But he's going to be running both of these tournaments, the Origins and Gen Con tournament. He is really passionate about Warcry, so I think you can bet that it's going to be a pretty well thought out event. So if you're in Ohio, you should absolutely get to Origins, or even if you're near Ohio, basically anyone in the Midwest should try to get to one of these 2 tournaments if they like this game. And I'm going to try to swing Gen Con, we'll see. But I'm definitely going to Nova, which is on September 1st. That's in the DC suburbs. It's also attached to a pretty cool painting competition that I'm going to try to enter in. That'll be my first ever painting competition. So that's going to be really exciting. They've already got a decent number of signups for that tournament, but there are more slots still. They have up to 32 slots for that tournament, and if we could get all the way up to 32 players for that tournament, that would be really incredible. That would be such a huge showcase for the game. There's no telling when the sort of Gnarlwood version of Warcry will drop within this calendar. Could be after Nova, right? They could preview the full box at Nova, or it could be, mid-June, mid-July, right? And then Gen Con or Nova are the kind of inaugural tournaments for the new kind of rules, something like that. Really, we could see either one. It's all kind of up in the air, but what we do know is that these events will be happening and they will be awesome for the game. I'm just really excited to see Warcry coming kind of out of the pandemic. Obviously, launching a game right before the pandemic is the absolute worst time to do it. Not that GW planned it, right? But the whole idea of organized play was just totally crippled, right, for Warcry and for any kind of hopes that it had of getting that kind of momentum. And one of the most common things that people say when they discover my channel, like one of the most common first comments I get is, I had no idea that matched play in Warcry had so much potential. Because, you know, because of the pandemic, because people couldn't go outside for the sort of birth of this game, everyone kind of just decided it was a campaign only game, that it was a narrative game. And I think we're going to see that it's not. I think we're going to see a real metagame develop. That'll be really interesting, right? Sort of how committed people are to what's kind of in theory the strongest stuff versus how much people want to bring sort of the strongest version of their own favorite warband. I think it's going to be really interesting. And for that reason, I'm really interested to see kind of what becomes most valuable as far as tournament prep priorities, right? Whether it's playing the metagame, talking about sort of specific popular lists, or if it's going to be just kind of more general list building things like my how to build a solid list video, stuff like that, where people will want to know kind of maybe not what's the strongest list in the game, but what's the strongest way to build each faction so that you can build your favorite faction in the most respectable way and then go to a tournament. Both of those things are probably pretty valuable, so I'll definitely be working on both as we go through the summer. Not everything's going to be hardcore tournament prep stuff. Of course, you know, I like to keep a lot of light videos as well, but I'm excited for the crunchy stuff too. So until then, may all your rolls be crits.